You could hear it as well as see it tonight. Like I say, I use the word machine. They are, aren't they? Particularly at home.
Yeah, everything's gone right, hasn't it? This season. You look at the questions that we had at the start of the season. Obviously, Klopp leaving and Arne Slot coming in. We didn't know much about Arne Slot. But the one constant they had was the players. There was hardly any, movement. Chiesa came in. He's hardly kicked a ball. But there was no incomings, no outgoings. The only real change was Gravenberch came in and played in that number 6 role. We weren't sure how that was going to develop. As it happens, he's been an absolute masterstroke. He's been brilliant at it. Apart from that, this team has been there, seen it, done it, won every trophy there is to win, the majority of them anyway. So really, in hindsight, we shouldn't have had too many question marks. The manager has come in and just, taken over and done a great job. Calmed everyone down. His demeanour's great. One of the big things I do think as well is their injury record. It's fantastic. And when you've got the full set of players, you can then rotate. You can then do whatever you want. Once you get injuries, you've got no option but to play the same team. Then they obviously overplay. Then they get injured, and then the whole thing just snowballs.
I know what you're saying. I think you should clarify that with major injuries, because they have missed players for large, but they have missed Alisson, they've missed Trent, they've missed Konate, they've missed Jota. Gakpo's been out the last few weeks, but you're going to come back to me and say, well, Salah and Van Dijk, and indeed Gravenberch, have played every game.
Yeah, okay, well, major injuries, all those players there's no one that's been out for a long time. Alisson probably was out for the longest, but they've got a cracking goalkeeper, reserve goalkeeper in Kelleher. But major injuries, yeah, they've managed that really well. And I don't think that's a fluke. I think when you look at all these teams around the country, there's lots of teams this year. Manchester City, Tottenham, Manchester United, just off the top of my head, have had chronic injury problems. And that's not just luck all the time. That's why they employ sports scientists and medical teams and all the rest of it. And they train and their diet and the nutritionists and all of these things go into it. That's all so important. The 1% differences all over the place add up. And I just think they've got it right on and off the pitch.
Yeah, I think Arne Slot deserves so much credit. I think I said at the start of the show as well, it's a fresh voice. They had Klopp for 8 years, whatever it was, and he's come in with a freshness. The other thing I might add to it as well is obviously the three of their main players, you could argue, is Trent, Van Dijk and Mo Salah, and obviously their contract situation. You sort of talk about Liverpool, you always talk about that. Now I think that's actually played into Arne Slot's hands as well, because one thing, they're either playing for a new contract at Liverpool or they're playing for their next contract at another club, and every single week they're playing to their maximum, they're playing to their best. And I think that's actually helped them. It's galvanised them. It's brought them together. I think Van Dijk was interviewed maybe a couple of months ago. I've seen it, and he said he was asked who was the last Dutch manager who won the Premier League, and he was like questioning. He goes, "Who is it? I can't think. No one." And his eyes lit up. Van Dijk was like, "I can make history. I can be the first Dutch captain to get my hands on the Premier League." So I think all that stuff, and Arne Slot, he just, as you said, Klopp, how do you follow in Klopp? We see what happened with Ferguson. They dropped off. He actually went on and managed these players. Man management must be fantastic as well. But them three key players, they might be leaving, and some of them might all be leaving. I don't know, Michael. They could all leave the building perhaps, but they've given their maximum to the club. But imagine leaving with 3 trophies as well. It would be a fantastic finish.
That's the next test, isn't it? What happens if they leave, or one of them leaves, or 2 of them leaves? There is no replacement for Mo Salah. There is no replacement for Virgil van Dijk. I think they could get by without Trent Alexander-Arnold. And that's going to be the next test. And you've seen what's happened to Manchester City. A bit of an aging team, 1 or 2 big players missing, and all of a sudden it can fall down like a deck of cards. Liverpool will be looking at that and thinking, right, that can't happen to us. What's the age of our group here? Where are the great players? How are we going to replace these? Now, my opinion on the 3 is Trent Alexander-Arnold is going to leave. Virgil van Dijk is going to stay, and Mo Salah is a toss of a coin. If they can get 2 of the 3 to stay, I think it will be a right result. And the big question mark is Mo Salah.